New crew, if you're new, my name's Cassandra. I've been getting more comments than I ever have over the last couple of weeks, showing more of my garden and things around what I'm gonna call our modern homestead. Our comments a lot like, I want to be more self-sufficient. How or where do I start? Or just comments about, I want to be more self-sufficient but I don't have a lot of space. What are some things that like I would do if I were starting and I lived in a smaller city lot? For a little bit of reference, we don't live on a huge lot. We live on a little under 3 acres, closer to 2.5. It really just depends. If I were starting on a homestead on like an half an acre, what would I do? So we're gonna go ahead and talk about some things that I would do homesteading or trying to be more self-sufficient on half an acre, or things that don't take having land at all. What I am sitting in front of is our raspberry patch. These we put in as 1-year canes just a couple of weeks ago. We put in a really big permaculture orchard, but this is something that does really well in small spaces. You could easily put this up in a flower bed in front of your house. My brother-in-law has these growing all around his house, just up against his house, not even in flower beds, anything like that. Just instead of doing flowers or landscaping, their family opted to put in berry plants. So they have raspberries and blackberries that grow there. So that's definitely an option. You could even put these alongside of your garage or a shed or something like that if you lived in a smaller space. We put in over 100 berry plants this summer. I'm pretty sure 80 of them are different varieties of raspberries. Are really great in the sense that if you are working on a budget, there are always nurseries that you can buy them in bulk from. I will leave all the information to, I'm pretty sure we got our berry plants from Yellow River Nursery. They are a Wisconsin-based nursery. They do deliver as well, so they delivered everything to our house. I will link that video down below if you want to see everything we got for the permaculture orchard. If you're interested in berries or variety, really made sure to get a variety of raspberries and other berries that were early season bearing, mid-season bearing, and late season bearing. That way we could have a full array of fresh berries for the longest period of time. But they're really great because you buy them once and they come back year after year after year, and the longer they're in the ground, the bigger the harvest. We planted our blackberry canes and our blackberry plugs down here at the base of the shop. So just for an example, you can definitely plant them here. They do well here. That I would look into our fruit trees of some sort of variety. Now, if you're thinking, I don't have a lot of space, you're telling me to plant trees. Well, it really just depends on how small of a space we are talking. But you can get regular trees, semi-dwarf, which is what we have here on, like I said, our 2-ish acre property, 2 to 3-ish acre property. Or you can get full-on dwarf trees, which are very small and do really well in small lots. The only difference between the trees is really the size. So you can look up what size those trees are and figure out how big of a space you need for however many trees that you're looking for, and figure out how many you can plant and what size trees you would need. I would also look into grafted trees. So here in our permaculture orchard, we have 32 trees with a handful of different varieties of cherries, pears, figs, apples, peaches. We also have some hazelnuts in here, which you could look into to make our own Nutella. We also have a handful of different variety of berries. So really you can plant whatever you think your family is going to need. But if you only had space for 2 or 3 trees, you could get dwarf grafted trees where they grow a couple different varieties of apples or a couple different varieties of peaches, pears, whatever you really want, cherries as well. That way you could still get the variety like you have 32 trees when really you only have the space for 2 or 3, and you could still get kind of everything you wanted with a little bit of variety. Now, we already talked about our berry situation, how we really tried to make sure that we were getting early bearing, mid bearing, and late bearing fruit. We did the exact same thing with these trees here. We made sure that we got varieties that start to kind of get ripened apples in like August, October, and then we wanted to get some that won't really get fruit until like October, November. That way we could store them. We also made sure that we got some storing apples, things that store really well here. We also did that with our peaches, our plums, figs, things like that. So we really tried to think ahead and make sure that we got some that do store well, we could keep fresh. We don't have to preserve, we can just pick them and get them downstairs. but that would be a great way to be self-sufficient. The only bad thing with these perennial items is that they do take time to establish and produce. So even though we put all this work and energy and money into the orchard, just in the fencing and planting and researching and all these things, this was a full year project. I can link our orchard videos down below if you want to see that, everything that happened in here. But we did all of the work ourselves. My husband and I put in the fences, we planted everything, of course with the help of some neighbors and some family came to planting. We put all the wood chips out, all the mulch, and it was a lot of work, but so totally worth it. And me and my husband really thrive on doing big projects like this together. We really love it. So it was a great thing to do. But lots of things you could add in here. We also have cranberries that we put in here, nuts in here. I'm trying to think of absolutely everything we put in because my husband did all of the ordering and things like that. I just did kind of some of the final say on the berries and the trees, but he ordered a lot of like the more fun stuff, like some of those hazelnuts, and he made some impulse purchases when he went to go pick up our trees because they had some on sale, because it was people that ordered too much or decided they didn't want everything on their order, and we got to buy them for discounted price just to get them off of the shelf there. But lots of things in here, lots of ideas. At least eventually this will be something that helps us be super self-sufficient, because we'll have a lot of fresh things, lots of things for preserving, whether that be our peaches, our cherries, and we're not just going to get things for fresh eating or canning whole. We plan on getting a freeze dryer, that way we can freeze dry a lot of these and get drink mixes. That's something we're really excited to do, and lots of different things. So many possibilities happen just here in the orchard with these perennial items. So many different options in preserving and canning and using, which is really going to help us personally be really self-sufficient, because with 4 kids, we rely on a lot of fresh fruit and a lot of, well, just a lot of fresh fruit, berries, and all of the apples, oranges, pears, peaches, plums, all of that stuff is stuff that we let our kids snack on kind of free range. So once we can provide a lot of that out here by ourselves, that's something that we're not going to have to be buying from the store, and it's going to make a huge dent for us personally in being self-sufficient. So a lot of the times you just have to think, what is going to help my family specifically be self-sufficient? Because if you're thinking, we don't really eat a lot of apples or pears or anything like that, don't really eat a lot of berries, then maybe this section here doesn't pertain to you, but maybe it can get your wheels thinking and wheels turning, going, okay, what do we rely a lot on, and what can I do even in my small space to make that step into self-sufficiency? And that's the mindset you have to have if you're going to be successful here. In the garage, another way to be self-sufficient with no land needed, or, well, no land needed, is hunting and fishing. This is some venison that our neighbors gave us after we gave them some trout after a fishing trip, because that's just what you do in the Midwest. You can't give a gift to a neighbor without them taking something off of their shelf or out of their freezer and giving it back to you. So this is some venison from them. But hunting and fishing is a great way to be self-sufficient. You're getting meat just for the price of your license. The equipment that you need, you can always hunt public land. Also look into it, because most places have either free or discounted license for veterans. We sustain ourselves very heavily with our fish and our venison, things that we hunt for. We also have a grouse in the freezer right now. We have done goose before. However, we only did that once. Nobody else in my family liked it. I liked the goose actually quite a lot, but not anybody else did. We do ducks occasionally, but we don't really do a whole lot of bird hunting, at least not yet. I think in the future that's something we will get a little bit more into as the kids get a little bit bigger. But right now, family fishing trips are really easy. So we have some trout here. We also have a couple bags of panfish. We tend to keep our fish separate and just in little bags. And you're gonna notice almost nothing is vacuum sealed. I think the only thing that we vacuum sealed this last year was our salmon, which I have a fillet here. My husband does usually 1 or 2 big salmon fishing trips throughout the year. Usually he'll go out on the Michigan Bay, and we'll catch salmon there, and then he will do the salmon run that kind of runs through smaller streams and smaller towns as they come up to spawn. Our panfish is our go-to for fish fries, fish tacos throughout the winter. They're really lovely. We love those. Our trout, we will typically either smoke whole and make into dips, or we will roast them whole with bacon inside, and then I will glaze them with a little bit of local honey, and they just become absolutely amazing. So we sustain ourselves a lot on no land necessary here. We do not own hunting land. We live on 3 acres. Hunting public land is a great way to do it, either bow season or gun season. Lots of options there, and that is a great way to fill your freezers. And fishing is also a great family activity. We do that with our kids. Our kids range in age from 8 to 1. So it's a great way to get everybody out into nature. The kids can splash in the stream a little bit. My husband can walk upstream where the kids aren't splashing, and he can fish, and then he can take maybe 1 or 2 of the bigger kids with him. They can go up the stream. I'll stay with the littler kids, and then we can switch off. So everyone kind of gets a little bit of fun. Everyone gets some outside time, and we can make it a trip that fills the freezer. We are talking about becoming more self-sufficient, and if you don't have a lot of space for a big garden or a large garden or even a raised bed or 2, figuring out what is going to get you the most bang for your buck if you are buying from a farm stand or from a farmer's market, all of those things, you need to figure out what your family is going to use the absolute most. Something like berries. Berry picking is a great activity for kids. You're going to hear me talk about that a lot because I have a lot of little kids that I cart with me through these activities. I want them to be able to know how to do these things, be able to do these things, and be excited to do these things, because I found that the more through the process the kids are involved, the more excited they are about actually eating the products that end up on the shelf behind me or in the freezers, whatever it is. They're excited to eat them, they ask for them, and they kind of know what's here because they help in whatever way that their age range is appropriately able to help. I have different jams here. This is something that I did not do this year. I had not canned 1 thing of jam yet this year, but last year I canned quite a bit of jam for the first time. And this is something that has sustained my family for almost an entire year. The only jams that I personally have still been buying is grape jam every once in a while just to mix it up because my kids really like it, and that's not something that we preserved here. If your goal is to be more self-sufficient, I would highly recommend starting in areas that you're going to be using all of the time, because when you're starting on a journey like this, it can really easily feel like you're not making any progress, especially if you are continuously opening up store-bought items. It can feel really frustrating, but for me, my kids can eat peanut butter and jelly every single day, packing a lot of lunches, and it reminds me every single day that I'm one step closer to the end goal of being really almost 100% self-sufficient. Will we ever get there? Probably not. That's just reality, and convenience items are a thing. Store-bought items are a thing. We still eat Oreos. We still like chicken nuggets every once in a while, but it's a nice reminder that you are making progress, and it's here. You can see it, it's in your hand, and you are working towards it. So for me, jam is one of those things where it's a really good bang for my buck. Picking berries is a good activity. I can get a lot out of a flat or 2 of strawberries, and I can make a couple different types of jam if I go pick strawberries. Rhubarb could be a great perennial plant that you put up in your walking paths, up in front of your house. You can make your rhubarb jams, rhubarb juice. Right here I have a strawberry rhubarb jam, and then I also have a Christmas jam here, which is some of the strawberries that we picked last year. I put them in the freezer, waited until the holidays when cranberries went on sale. I bought cranberries from the store, took out my frozen strawberries, and made some spiced Christmas jam, and that's what we have here. So 2 different products, 1 strawberry picking process, and it's just, that is my definition of bang for your buck. Sometimes it really is just learning the preservation skills, which you can definitely learn with store-bought items. I currently have 4 pints of pineapples that I canned up here on my pantry shelf. These are store-bought items. The only reason I canned these is because I bought a couple pineapples because they were on sale. My kids didn't eat through them fast enough, and being able to know how to can them just saved me from being able to waste them. And now they're here sitting on my shelf. Sometimes just learning the basics, getting yourself either a water bath canner or just a really big stock pot that you can can in is perfectly fine. And just knowing how to actually go through the process, a basic canning cookbook can walk you through this. I really like the Ball's Complete Guide Preservation book. I have that link down below if you are interested in that, but that's the book where it walks me through how to can these pineapples. And being able to can with store-bought items is totally fine because this saved me money here and now it's sitting waiting to be used. Another great example of that is my grandparents have a couple apple trees, a couple pear trees on their property, and every year they have called me over the last couple of years since we have been back home from New York, and they say, hey, please come pick my apples. Bring your kids over. They can have a ball, take as many apples and as many pears as you want. We've had our fill. Please just take them. And they were completely free to me, and I got 4 different products on my pantry shelf that were just my time, and of course the jars. The first one is just plain applesauce. I haven't had to buy applesauce in a handful of years. I still have a great stockpile here. We eat this just as applesauce. We bake with this all of the time. Some of our favorite donut recipes and muffin recipes use applesauce. And I like to get variety in as many things on my shelf as I can just to mix it up, especially if the goal is to be more self-sufficient. Sometimes something very simple as having plain applesauce, cranberry applesauce with some of those more store-bought cranberries I got during the holidays. I have a pear spiced applesauce that I made with apples, pears, a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of vanilla extract, and I made that into an applesauce, and that's really good as well. It's a little bit sweeter, it's got a little bit more tang to it, but that's on the shelf as well. It helps switch it up. And then the last product I got off of there were just some canned apples here. These we have been loving. We love to make apple crisps out of these, or apple pies very quick. These I decided to can in just water and sugar, so like a simple syrup. A lot of canning recipes do call or have a recipe for specifically apple pie filling. However, it calls for a lot more ingredients than just your apples, water, and sugar, so that's what I opted to do here. There may be a day where I can actual apple pie filling. That might be something I do this year, but for last year this was very simple, very easy, and I liked it because I didn't have to purchase anything to be able to can these, and I would have had to purchase things to can the apple pie filling. So this is just as good and we use it just as often. So being able to take one product, if you have the opportunity to be able to get it for free, or you buy it at the grocery store, it's a really great deal, it's a great price. Or maybe you find it on a clearance rack, it's about to go bad, but you go, hey, these pineapples, they're gonna go bad in a day or two, and I have it in my budget to buy 10 pineapples, but I'm not gonna eat 10 pineapples in the next 2 days. You can go, you know what? I'll go home, I'll slice up a fresh pineapple for my family to eat, and the other 9 are going into jars. I were wanting to become more self-sufficient on a very small scale, something that absolutely anyone can do, and even I do here, is I grow herbs in my windowsill. There's nothing fancy here. This is just a red solo cup. These are cilantros that I am starting, but you can do anything. Last year I did basil and parsley and oregano, and I just lined up my entire kitchen window here full of red solo cups, and I grew my herbs there. Very simple, very easy, cheap, cost effective, and something that literally anybody can do. If you want something a little bit more cute, a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, they do make things on Amazon. You can get some really cute herb planters and line them up in your kitchen windows and grow them there. But for me, red solo cups do the trick. I'm not always looking for cute, fancy things. That's what I had. It was cheap, it was convenient, and it got me to grow my cilantro there. So I would definitely consider doing some window herbs. Another super easy way to become more self-sufficient is just to get some kitchen skills, very basic kitchen skills. That way, when you are growing more of your own things, or you have accomplished some of your other goals, like reaching out to a local farmer and getting some really nice produce, you know how to either preserve it, or like here, some fresh zucchini. We are going to make some zucchini muffins for the kids. When I started trying to be more self-sufficient, the first thing I actually started with was making a lot of our own bakery goods, because I was still learning how to grow food and trying to figure out what exactly my family really needed, because I think people overlook that step in figuring out, okay, what does my family actually eat? Because sometimes you think, oh, I know what my family eats because I do all the grocery shopping. But then when you're starting to really think about it, sometimes it can be a little bit more depth than people think. So I started with our baked goods. I started with making our muffins and all of the kids' cookies and all their little fun treats. I went and got these glass jars from Walmart. This larger one was $10. Their smaller ones are even cheaper than that. And once a week, I would make a batch of cookies and maybe some muffins or some bars. I find a lot of my recipes on Pinterest, and I would just make them once a week and fill the snack jars. That way I didn't have to buy store-bought junk anymore. At least the cookies were homemade, and the kids could get involved and learn how to make their cookies that they like to eat in their bars and things like that. The next thing I would say is, once you do start getting garden produce, learning how to preserve it. If people are afraid of canning, which I completely understand, you can always learn how to blanch things. I have a video on that I can link down below. But just getting basic cooking skills, learning how to cook different cuts of meat and different vegetables. Here we're making homemade tortillas, learning how to make tortillas or breads or rolls. And I would just set a goal maybe where one item on your dinner plate every week is homemade. Whether that be your breads or maybe your pastas or even pressing your own burger patties. It doesn't always have to be huge time spent in the kitchen, but just making it a goal that some things are more homemade. And then when you do make your first whole from scratch meal, you're gonna be so proud of yourself. I can tell you because I know I was.
How close it starts to end up on the brink. I tried so hard, but all these scars, they cut so deep, I bleed. I fell so fast from heaven, it's like someone clipped my wings. Now I'm falling, and I can't see the ground. Can we stop this gravity?